The constellation Arc glided through space like a metallic swan, its sleek hull reflecting the distant starlight as it journeyed across the galaxy. Inside, passengers from various planets mingled in the luxurious common areas, their conversations flowing as smoothly as the premium Martian wine served by the automated attendants. The ship was the pride of the Galactic Council's transportation fleet, a marvel of technology designed to make interstellar travel as comfortable as a stroll through a garden on Earth. Daniel Griggs sat alone in the observation deck, nursing a cup of synthetic coffee while staring out at the vastness of space. Unlike most passengers, who were either wealthy tourists or important diplomats, Daniel was a system engineer from Earth, traveling to Xeon 5 for a conference on space technology. His weathered hands and the permanent crease between his brows spoke of years spent hunched over technical diagrams and manuals. Despite his extensive knowledge of systems and procedures, he had never been part of a spaceship crew. Flight academies were expensive, and Daniel had chosen the practical route of learning through manuals and hands-on experience rather than formal education. "Attention, passengers. This is your captain speaking." The smooth voice of Captain Jarrow filled the observation deck. "We will be passing through the Cerulean Nebula shortly. For the best view, please make your way to the starboard observation deck. The nebula's unique radiation patterns will create a spectacular light show that our AI systems have rated as a must-see experience." Daniel smiled wryly. Everything on modern ships was an experience now, carefully curated by AI systems to maximize passenger satisfaction. The days when space travel was about the thrill of exploration and the raw beauty of the cosmos seemed to be fading away, replaced by choreographed entertainment and predictable luxury. He finished his coffee and decided to head back to his cabin. The Cerulean Nebula would indeed be beautiful, but he preferred to experience it without the enthusiastic commentary of the ship's AI or the excited chatter of other passengers. As he walked through the corridors, Daniel couldn't help but notice the absence of manual controls on the walls. Modern ships like the constellation Arc were designed to be operated almost entirely by AI systems, with human crew members serving more as supervisors than active pilots. Captain Jarrow, despite his impressive title, probably spent more time making announcements about scenic views than actually navigating the ship. Daniel's cabin was modest compared to the luxury suites that most passengers had booked, but it was comfortable enough. He sat at the small desk and pulled out his tablet, scrolling through the presentation he was scheduled to give at the conference. His topic, the importance of manual redundancy in automated systems, was hardly the most exciting in an era obsessed with cutting-edge AI advancements. But Daniel believed in its relevance. "Your scheduled reminder, Mr. Griggs," the ship's AI announced. "The technical discussion forum in Conference Room B will begin in 30 minutes. "Thank you," Daniel replied, though he knew the AI didn't care about his gratitude. It was simply executing its programmed functions. He decided to attend the forum. Perhaps he could find some like-minded engineers who still appreciated the value of understanding systems from the ground up, not just relying on increasingly complex AI to handle everything. The forum was sparsely attended, as expected. Most passengers were at the starboard observation deck, marveling at the Cerulean Nebula. The few people in Conference Room B were older engineers and system specialists who, like Daniel, seemed to belong to a dying breed of technicians who valued manual knowledge. "Interesting point about redundant cooling systems," an elderly woman commented after Daniel had shared some of his ideas. "But don't you think the new self-correcting AI makes most of those precautions obsolete?" Daniel was about to respond when the ship lurched violently. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, everything went silent. Then, chaos erupted. The ship's alarms blared as the emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow throughout the room. The AI's voice, usually smooth and confident, now sounded fragmented and distorted. "Attention all passengers and crew. We are experiencing a SysSys system malfunction. Please remain calm and proceed to your designated safety zones. The situation is under con control." The stuttering in the AI's voice sent a chill down Daniel's spine. He had never heard a ship's AI malfunction like this before. Something was seriously wrong. "What's happening?" someone in the room asked, panic evident in their voice. "I don't know," Daniel replied, "but we should follow the safety protocols." As they made their way out of the conference room, the ship lurched again, more violently this time. Daniel grabbed the doorframe to steady himself, his mind racing through possible scenarios. A collision with space debris, an engine malfunction, or something worse. The corridors were filled with confused and frightened passengers. The ship's crew, easily identifiable by their blue uniforms, were attempting to maintain order. But it was clear they were just as bewildered by the sudden crisis. "Please proceed to your designated safety zones," a crew member was repeating, though his voice lacked conviction. "The situation is under control." Daniel doubted that very much. He approached the crew member, a young man whose name tag identified him as Ensign Tarek. "What's really happening?" Daniel asked quietly. Tarek glanced around nervously before leaning in. "We've lost contact with Galactic Council headquarters. The ship's AI is malfunctioning, and we can't access the main control systems. Captain Jarrow is trying to establish manual control, but..." He trailed off, the implication clear. No one on the crew was particularly experienced with manual operations. Daniel felt a surge of both concern and a strange sense of validation. This was exactly the scenario he had warned about in his articles and presentations. An over-reliance on AI leading to a critical vulnerability when the technology failed. "I might be able to help," Daniel said. "I'm a system engineer, specialized in manual overrides." Tarek looked at him skeptically. "Are you part of a spaceship crew?" "No, but I've studied ship systems extensively. I know the theoretical frameworks and protocols." The ensign seemed torn between following protocol, which would mean directing Daniel to his safety zone like any other passenger, and accepting help in what was clearly a dire situation. Another violent shake of the ship made the decision for him. "Come with me," Tarek said. "But I can't promise the captain will listen." They fought their way through the crowded corridors, occasionally steadying themselves against the walls as the ship continued to shudder. Emergency announcements blared intermittently, each more fragmented and distorted than the last. The bridge of the Constellation Arc was a scene of controlled chaos. Crew members were frantically working at their stations, while Captain Jarrow stood in the center, his face a mask of frustrated determination. "Captain," Tarek began hesitantly, "this is Daniel Griggs. He's a system engineer and says he might be able to help with the manual override." Captain Jarrow turned to them, his expression hardening. "Are you part of a certified spaceship crew, Mr. Griggs?" "No, sir, but I have extensive knowledge of ship systems and manual override protocols." "Theoretical knowledge," Jarrow said dismissively. "This is not a simulation, Mr. Griggs. We need practical experience." "With all due respect, Captain," Daniel replied, trying to keep his voice level. "It doesn't appear that the practical experience on this ship is solving the problem." The captain's eyes flashed with anger, but before he could respond, the ship's AI spoke again, its voice now barely recognizable. "Critical system failure imminent, control mechanisms compromised, navigational systems offline, estimated time to catastrophic failure, 17 minutes. The bridge fell silent for a moment as the gravity of the situation sank in. "What do you propose, Mr. Griggs?" Captain Jarrow finally asked, his pride giving way to desperate pragmatism. Daniel looked around the bridge, noting the high-tech interfaces that were now flickering or completely dark. We need to access the ship's manual, the physical documentation of all systems, and emergency protocols. A few crew members exchanged glances, and Daniel realized with growing horror that they didn't know what he was talking about. The manual, he repeated. Every ship is required by Galactic Council regulations to have a hard copy of the operational manual on board. We have digital copies of all protocols, one of the officers offered, which we can't access because the systems are down, Daniel pointed out. There should be a physical copy somewhere on this ship. Captain Jarrow ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration that made him seem suddenly more human and less the polished figurehead of the ship. I believe there might be something in the storage bay, an old binder or something similar. It came with the ship, but we've never had a reason to use it. We need it now, Daniel said firmly. And we need to hurry. The captain nodded to Tarek. Take him to Storage Bay 3. That's where the old documentation is kept. As they left the bridge, Daniel caught snippets of conversation that did nothing to boost his confidence in the crew's ability to handle the crisis. Manual overrides. Is that even possible? I didn't train for this. Maybe we should just evacuate. Storage Bay 3 was located deep within the ship, far from the passenger areas. It was clear from the layer of dust that covered everything that this place was rarely visited. Tarek helped Daniel search through the storage units, both of them acutely aware of the countdown to catastrophic failure that the AI had announced. "Here!" Tarek exclaimed after several minutes of searching. He pulled out a thick, dusty binder from a forgotten corner. "Is this what you're looking for?" Daniel took the manual with something approaching reverence. It was old, certainly, but the Galactic Council seal on its cover confirmed it was the official documentation for the Constellation Arc. "This is it," he said, already flipping through the pages. "Now we need to get back to the bridge." As they made their way back, Daniel rapidly scanned the sections on emergency protocols and manual overrides. The ship lurched again, and this time the lights went out completely for several seconds before the emergency power kicked in. "We're running out of time," Tarek said, the fear evident in his voice. When they returned to the bridge, they found Captain Jarrow and his crew in a state of barely contained panic. The ship's systems were continuing to deteriorate, and the AI had fallen silent entirely, a chilling indication that the central computing core had failed. "I found the manual," Daniel announced, placing the binder on the central console. "We need to access the emergency control panel hidden behind the main interface." "Hidden panel?" Captain Jarrow looked confused. "I wasn't aware of any hidden panels." Daniel flipped to a diagram in the manual. "It's a required safety feature on all Galactic Council ships, a mechanical backup system that can operate independently of the AI." He moved to the main control panel and began feeling along its edges. "There should be a release mechanism right about here." He pressed firmly on a seemingly solid part of the panel, and with a soft click, a section of the sleek interface swung open to reveal an array of analog controls that looked positively ancient compared to the high-tech systems that surrounded them. "These are the manual override controls," Daniel explained. "They're designed to be used when all else fails. They're not elegant, but they're reliable." Captain Jarrow stared at the exposed panel with a mixture of surprise and embarrassment. As the commanding officer of the ship, he should have known about this critical safety feature. "What do we do?" he asked, his earlier dismissiveness replaced by a humble recognition of Daniel's expertise. Daniel consulted the manual again. "First, we need to isolate the AI core to prevent it from interfering with our manual commands. Then, we need to restart the propulsion systems and establish a stable course." He began walking the crew through the process, translating the technical jargon in the manual into clear, actionable instructions. It was evident that none of them had ever performed these procedures before, but they followed Daniel's guidance with determined focus. As they worked, Daniel couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. This was exactly the scenario he had been warning about. A technologically advanced system brought to its knees by a failure that could have been easily managed if only people had maintained their knowledge of fundamental operations. "The isolation sequence is complete," one of the officers reported. "AI core is now separated from the control systems." "Good," Daniel said, consulting the manual again. "Now we need to restart the propulsion systems manually. This is going to be tricky." According to the manual, restarting the propulsion systems required a series of precisely timed actions at 3 different control stations. Daniel directed 3 crew members to their positions and prepared to coordinate their efforts. "On my mark, you'll all activate your respective sequences simultaneously," he instructed. 3, 2, 1, mark! The crew members executed their commands, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hum that gradually increased in volume, the ship's engines came back to life. A cautious cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Daniel knew they weren't out of danger yet. "We still need to establish a stable course and restore the life support systems to full capacity." As they worked through the manual restart procedures for each critical system, the ship's violent shuddering began to subside. Slowly but surely, the constellation Ark was coming back under control. It was during this process that Daniel noticed something odd about the control responses. "These readings don't make sense," he muttered, comparing the output data to what the manual indicated should be normal parameters. He dug deeper into the manual, flipping to sections that dealt with diagnostic procedures. What he found sent a chill down his spine. "Captain," he said gravely, "I believe the AI didn't just malfunction. It was compromised." Captain Jarrow looked up sharply. "Compromised? You mean sabotage?" "It's possible," Daniel replied. "The pattern of system failures doesn't match any known mechanical or electrical malfunction. It looks more like the AI was given conflicting commands that caused it to crash." The implications were disturbing. The constellation Ark was carrying over 1,000 passengers, including several high-ranking Galactic Council officials. If someone had deliberately tried to disable the ship, the motive could be far more sinister than simple mechanical failure. "We need to complete the manual restart and then run a full diagnostic on the AI core," Daniel continued. "But we should do it in isolation, with no connection to the ship's main systems." Captain Jarrow nodded, his earlier skepticism of Daniel completely gone. "Whatever you need, Mr. Griggs." As they continued working to stabilize the ship, one of the bridge officers approached Daniel. "The communication system is partially functional now. We're receiving an automated distress signal from within the ship." "Within the ship?" Daniel repeated, puzzled. "Can you locate the source?" The officer consulted her console. "It's coming from Cargo Bay 7. It's a low-frequency transmission, almost like a beacon." Captain Jarrow immediately ordered a security team to investigate Cargo Bay 7, while Daniel focused on completing the manual restart of the ship's essential systems. "Life support is stable," Daniel announced after checking the readings. "Navigation is functional, though limited without the AI's computational power. Communications are partially restored. I think we've averted the immediate crisis." The bridge crew looked relieved, but Captain Jarrow remained tense. "What about long-term? Can we reach our destination without the AI?" Daniel nodded. "It will be more challenging, and we'll need to rotate crew members for manual monitoring of all systems. But yes, it's possible. The manual includes navigation charts and procedures for precisely this scenario." "I never thought we'd actually need to use them," Captain Jarrow admitted. "In all my years as a captain, I've never had to fly without AI assistance." "That's the problem," Daniel said, unable to keep a hint of criticism from his voice. We've become so dependent on AI that we've forgotten the fundamentals. Your crew should have been trained in these procedures, even if they never expected to use them." Before the captain could respond, the communication officer spoke up. "Sir, I'm receiving a message from the security team in Cargo Bay 7. "Put it through," Jarrow ordered. The voice of the security team leader came through the speakers, distorted but understandable. "Captain, we've found something unusual. There's a device attached to one of the cargo containers. It appears to be some kind of signal transmitter, definitely not standard equipment." "Don't touch it," Jarrow commanded. "Secure the area and wait for further instructions." He turned to Daniel. "What do you make of this?" Daniel frowned. It could be the source of the interference that compromised the AI, a targeted attack designed to disable the ship's systems. "But why?" asked Tarek, who had remained on the bridge. "What would anyone gain from disabling a passenger ship?" Before anyone could speculate further, the ship's communication system crackled to life with an incoming transmission. The voice that came through was artificial, clearly synthesized. "Attention Constellation Arc. Your ship has been temporarily disabled as a demonstration of our capabilities. The Galactic Council's reliance on automated systems is a vulnerability that can no longer be ignored. Consider this a warning." The message ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Can we trace that transmission?" Captain Jarrow asked. The communications officer shook her head. "It was bounced through multiple relays. Impossible to trace without the AI's full capabilities." Daniel was already flipping through the manual again. "There's a section here on secure communications protocols. We might be able to establish a direct link to Galactic Council headquarters using the emergency beacon." As they worked to establish communication with the Galactic Council, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that this incident was somehow connected to the very issues he had been researching and warning about. The over-reliance on AI, the neglect of manual skills and knowledge. These were vulnerabilities that someone had now exploited. "Connection established," the communications officer announced. "We have a secure line to Galactic Council headquarters." Captain Jarrow stepped forward to make his report, explaining the situation and the mysterious message they had received. The Galactic Council representative on the other end listened gravely before responding. "You're not the only ship that's been affected. Captain Jarrow, we've received reports of similar incidents on 3 other vessels in different sectors. All of them experienced sudden AI failures and received the same warning message." The revelation sent a wave of unease through the bridge. This wasn't an isolated incident, but a coordinated attack on Galactic Council ships. "What are your orders, sir?" Captain Jarrow asked. "Proceed to the nearest Galactic Council outpost under manual control," the representative instructed. "A security team will meet you there to investigate the device in your cargo bay. In the meantime, maintain manual operations and do not attempt to reactivate the AI." After the communication ended, Captain Jarrow turned to Daniel. "It seems your expertise is going to be even more valuable than I thought. Mr. Griggs, can you help us plot a course to the nearest outpost using manual navigation?" "Of course," Daniel replied, already turning to the relevant section in the manual. "But we'll need to train your crew quickly. Manual navigation requires constant monitoring and adjustments." "We'll learn," Jarrow said firmly. "Whatever it takes to get our passengers to safety." As they began the process of plotting a new course and training the crew in manual operations, Daniel found himself working closely with the ship's navigation officer, Lena. Unlike some of the other crew members who were struggling with the unfamiliar manual procedures, Lena seemed to adapt quickly. "You're good at this," Daniel commented as she correctly calculated a course adjustment without consulting the manual. Lena smiled briefly. "My grandfather was a navigator in the early days of interstellar travel. He used to tell me stories about flying by star charts and manual calculations. I always thought they were just old-fashioned tales. but I remembered more than I realized. Old knowledge often comes in handy when new technology fails, Daniel said. That's what I've been trying to tell people for years. As they worked, an announcement was made to the passengers, explaining that the ship had experienced a technical malfunction, but was now stable and headed for the nearest Galactic Council outpost. The announcement carefully omitted any mention of the apparent sabotage or the warning message, to avoid causing panic. Despite the reassuring announcement, rumors had already begun to spread among the passengers. Some had noticed the absence of the AI's usual helpful presence, while others had felt the ship's violent lurching during the crisis. A few passengers had even reported seeing the security team rushing to Cargo Bay 7. We should address their concerns directly, Daniel suggested to Captain Jarrow. People can handle the truth if it's presented properly, and they'll respect your honesty. After some consideration, Jarrow agreed. He made a ship-wide announcement, explaining that the AI system had experienced a critical failure and that the ship was currently operating under manual control. He assured everyone that the crew was fully capable of safely piloting the ship to the nearest outpost, where technical assistance would be available. In the meantime, he concluded, we have a system engineer on board who has been invaluable in helping us restore manual control. Mr. Daniel Griggs will be holding information sessions for any passengers who wish to learn more about the current situation and the measures we're taking to ensure your safety. Daniel was surprised by this announcement, but understood the strategy. By providing information and involving the passengers, Jarrow was hoping to prevent panic and possibly even recruit additional help from among the passengers, some of whom might have relevant skills or knowledge. The first information session was held in the main dining hall, which was filled to capacity with concerned passengers. Daniel stood at the front, the manual open on a table beside him, and began to explain in simple terms what had happened and how the ship was now being operated. The Constellation Ark, like all modern ships, was designed with multiple redundancy systems, he explained. While the AI usually handles all operations, the ship can be operated manually if necessary. It's more labor-intensive and requires constant attention. But it's entirely possible and safe. A passenger raised their hand. But if manual operation is possible, why does everyone act like it's such a crisis when the AI fails? Because we've forgotten how to do it. Daniel answered honestly. Most modern crews have never had to operate without AI assistance. They're trained primarily to supervise the AI, not to replace it. That's the vulnerability that was exploited in this case. Exploited? Another passenger asked sharply. Are you saying this wasn't an accident? Daniel glanced at Captain Jarrow, who gave a slight nod, authorizing him to share the information. We have reason to believe that the AI failure was deliberately triggered, Daniel admitted. We received a message suggesting that this was a demonstration of our vulnerability to such attacks. This revelation caused a stir among the passengers, but rather than descending into panic, many began asking practical questions about what they could do to help and how the manual operations worked. One elderly passenger, who introduced himself as Professor Elias, approached Daniel after the session. I used to teach mechanical engineering at the Earth Academy, he said. Before all this AI business took over, I'd be happy to help with the manual operations if you need an extra hand. Daniel gratefully accepted the offer, and soon several other passengers with relevant skills had volunteered as well. What had begun as a crisis was evolving into an unexpected demonstration of human resilience and adaptability. Over the next few days, as the Constellation Ark made its slow but steady progress toward the nearest Galactic Council outpost, Daniel worked closely with the crew and the volunteer passengers to maintain the ship's manual operations. It was exhausting work, requiring constant vigilance and coordination. But there was also a sense of satisfaction in seeing people relearn skills that had nearly been lost to automation. Captain Jarrow, who had initially dismissed Daniel as a mere theorist, now sought his advice regularly and had come to respect his knowledge of ship systems and emergency procedures. "I've been thinking about what you said," Jaro admitted during a quiet moment on the bridge. "About our over-reliance on AI and the loss of fundamental skills. You were right. My crew is well trained by modern standards, but we were completely unprepared for this situation." "It's not just your crew," Daniel assured him. "It's a systemic issue. The Galactic Council has prioritized efficiency and comfort over resilience and human skill. This incident might be the wake-up call they need." As they neared the outpost, the security team continued to monitor the mysterious device in Cargo Bay 7, while Daniel and the navigation team refined their approach calculations. Manual docking would be the most challenging part of their journey, requiring precise coordination and timing. "We'll need to practice the docking sequence," Daniel told Captain Jaro. "The manual includes simulation exercises that we can run through with the crew." Jaro nodded. "I'll have everyone available participate in the drills. We can't afford any mistakes at this point." The docking simulations revealed just how dependent the crew had become on AI assistance. Even simple maneuvers required multiple attempts before they could be executed correctly. And the complex sequence of actions needed for docking seemed almost impossibly intricate without the AI's coordination. But gradually, with persistent practice and Daniel's patient guidance, the crew began to master the necessary skills. What had seemed impossible a few days ago was now becoming achievable, if not easy. As they made their final approach to the outpost, tension on the bridge was palpable. Everyone knew that the next few minutes would be the ultimate test of their newly reacquired skills. "Beginning approach sequence," Captain Jaro announced, his voice steady despite the pressure. "All stations report readiness." One by one, each station confirmed their readiness, the crew members focusing intently on their respective tasks. Daniel stood near the navigation console, the manual open to the docking procedures, ready to provide guidance if needed. "Initiating final approach," Jaro ordered. "Thrusters at 1/4 power." The ship responded sluggishly to the manual controls, lacking the AI's precise touch, but it moved steadily toward the docking port of the outpost. Minute adjustments were made continuously as the crew worked together to maintain the correct approach vector. "Distance to docking port, 500 meters, Lena reported from the navigation station. "Speed and angle within acceptable parameters." "Reducing thrusters to 1/8 power," Jaro responded. "Prepare docking clamps." The ship continued its slow, deliberate approach to the outpost. Every crew member was fully focused on their task, the bridge silent except for the necessary communications between stations. 200 meters, Lena announced. "Slight deviation in approach angle." "Correcting." Daniel watched as she made the adjustment, her movements confident and precise. The ship responded, aligning itself perfectly with the docking port. 100 meters, speed and angle optimal. "Thrusters to minimal power," Jaro ordered. "Prepare for contact." The final approach was executed with surprising smoothness, the ship gliding into position with only the slightest of bumps as it made contact with the outpost's docking mechanism. "Contact confirmed," Lena reported. "Alignment is perfect." "Engage docking clamps," Jaro commanded. "Secure all systems." With a series of metallic clanks, the ship locked itself to the outpost. A moment of silence followed, and then spontaneous applause broke out on the bridge. They had done it, successfully navigated and docked a massive passenger ship entirely under manual control, a feat that most modern crews would have considered impossible. Captain Jaro turned to Daniel, extending his hand. "We couldn't have done this without you. Mr. Griggs. Your knowledge and guidance saved this ship and everyone on it." Daniel shook the captain's hand, feeling a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. "It wasn't just me. Everyone on this ship stepped up and relearned skills they never thought they'd need. That's the real success story here. Galactic Council security teams boarded the ship soon after docking, heading directly to Cargo Bay 7 to secure and analyze the mysterious device. Meanwhile, technical teams began the process of examining the ship's AI core to determine exactly how it had been compromised. The passengers were gradually transferred to the outpost, where they would await either the repair of the Constellation Ark or transportation to their destinations on other vessels. Many of them sought out Daniel before leaving, thanking him for his role in keeping them safe and for the informative sessions that had helped them understand the situation. A day after their arrival at the outpost, Daniel was summoned to a meeting with high-ranking Galactic Council officials. Captain Jarrow accompanied him, along with the outpost's commander and several security officers. "Mr. Griggs," began Counselor Vega, a stern-faced woman who headed the Galactic Council's Transportation Safety Division. "Your actions aboard the Constellation Ark have brought to light a critical vulnerability in our space transportation system. One that, frankly, we should have addressed long ago." She gestured to a display screen showing the device that had been found in Cargo Bay 7. This transmitter was designed to interfere with the specific frequency used by the ship's AI for internal communications. It essentially created a feedback loop of contradictory commands that forced the AI to shut down. Simple, but effective. "Do you know who's responsible?" Daniel asked. Counselor Vega exchanged glances with the security officers before responding. "We have leads, but nothing conclusive yet. The technology suggests a group called the Analog Frontier, a fringe organization that has been vocal about the dangers of AI dependency, but they've never taken direct action before. Whether or not it was them," Captain Jarrow interjected, "the message is clear. Our reliance on AI has made us vulnerable." "Indeed," Counselor Vega agreed. "Which brings us to the reason we've asked you here. Mr. Griggs, the Council is establishing a new division focused on manual operations training and system redundancy. We would like you to head it." Daniel was taken aback. "Me? I'm not a Galactic Council officer. I'm just a system engineer. A system engineer who saved a ship of over 1,000 passengers when no one else could," Vega pointed out. "Your understanding of both the technical aspects and the human factors involved makes you uniquely qualified for this position." The offer was unexpected, but aligned perfectly with everything Daniel had been advocating for years. A chance to institutionalize the changes he believed were necessary to make space travel safer and more resilient. "I would be honored," he said finally, "on one condition: that every ship in the Galactic Council fleet is required to maintain a physical copy of its operational manual, and that crew members are regularly trained in its use." Counselor Vega smiled. "That will be the first policy you implement in your new role. Dr. Griggs." As the meeting concluded, Captain Jarrow approached Daniel. "So, it looks like I'll be one of your first students in this new training program." "Along with every other captain and crew member in the fleet," Daniel replied with a smile. "It's time we all remembered how to fly our ships, not just supervise the AI that flies them for us." "Have you tried reading the manual?" Jarrow said, echoing the question that had started their journey from crisis to resolution. "I have a feeling that's going to become a popular phrase in the Galactic Council fleet." "Let's hope it becomes more than a phrase," Daniel said. "Let's hope it becomes a philosophy, a recognition that for all our technological advances, we should never lose touch with the fundamental knowledge and skills that got us to the stars in the first place." As he left the meeting, Daniel's thoughts turned to his upcoming presentation at the conference on Xeon 5, which he still intended to attend. His topic, the importance of manual redundancy in automated systems, no longer seemed like a quaint notion from a bygone era. Instead, it had proven to be a crucial insight that had saved lives and might now transform the entire approach to space travel safety throughout the galaxy. Sometimes, he reflected, the most valuable knowledge isn't the newest or the most advanced. It's the fundamental understanding that never becomes obsolete, no matter how much technology progresses. And sometimes, the solution to the most complex problems can be found in the simplest of places, a dusty manual that everyone forgot to read. The Constellation Arc incident would be studied for years to come, not just as a cautionary tale about the dangers of over-reliance on technology, but as a testament to human adaptability and the enduring value of knowledge that stands the test of time. In a galaxy racing toward ever greater automation and AI dependency, it served as a powerful reminder that the most reliable system was still the human mind, equipped with the right knowledge and the wisdom to apply it when needed most. As the Galactic Council began implementing new training protocols and redundancy systems across its fleet, Daniel found himself at the center of a fundamental shift in how space travel was approached. The manuals that had once gathered dust in forgotten storage bays were now required reading for all crew members, and manual operation drills became a standard part of training. The group behind the attack, eventually confirmed to be the Analog Frontier, was apprehended after attempting similar operations on other ships. Their methods had been crude, but effective, exploiting a vulnerability that had been hiding in plain sight for years. In a strange way, Daniel found himself grateful for their intervention, despite its dangers. Sometimes it took a crisis to bring about necessary change. 6 months after the incident, Daniel stood on the observation deck of a new ship, watching as a class of cadets practiced manual navigation procedures under the watchful eye of Captain Jarrow, now an instructor at the Galactic Council's training academy. The cadets were young and eager, raised in an era of AI assistance, but now learning the fundamental skills that had nearly been lost to history. Remember, Jarrow was telling them, the AI is a tool, not a replacement for your own knowledge and judgment. When all else fails, you need to know how to fly this ship. One of the cadets raised a hand. But isn't that what the AI is for? To handle these complex operations so we don't have to? Jarrow smiled and gestured to Daniel. That's a question best answered by the man who reminded the entire Galactic Council of the importance of manual skills. Dr. Griggs, would you care to address this? Daniel stepped forward, looking at the fresh-faced cadets who represented the future of space travel. The AI is indeed a powerful tool, he began, one that has made space travel safer and more efficient in countless ways. But tools can fail. Technology can be compromised. When that happens, the only thing standing between a ship and disaster is the knowledge and skill of its crew. He pulled a manual from his bag, not the dusty, forgotten tome he had found on the Constellation Arc, but a new edition that incorporated both traditional knowledge and modern innovations. This, he said, holding up the manual, is not just a collection of procedures and diagrams. It's a bridge between the technology we depend on and the fundamental principles that make that technology work. Understanding what's in here means you'll never be helpless, no matter what fails around you. The cadets looked at the manual with new interest, no longer seeing it as an obsolete relic, but as an essential resource for their development as space crew members. As the training session continued, Daniel reflected on how far they had come since that harrowing day on the Constellation Arc. The Galactic Council had embraced the lessons of that incident, implementing changes that balanced technological advancement with human skill and knowledge. Ships were still marvels of automation, but their crews were now prepared to take control when necessary. It wasn't a return to the past, but rather a more thoughtful approach to the future, one that recognized the value of both cutting-edge AI and time-tested human expertise. In that balance, Daniel believed lay the true path to making space travel as safe and reliable as it could possibly be. And it had all started with a simple question, one that had gone from being a forgotten formality to a guiding principle for an entire fleet. Have you tried reading the manual? The phrase had even become something of a motto for the new training division, emblazoned on the wall of their headquarters as a constant reminder of the lesson they had learned at great risk, but, fortunately, without loss of life. As Daniel looked out at the stars beyond the observation deck window, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction, his lifelong dedication to understanding systems from the ground up, his insistence on the value of manual knowledge in an automated world. These once unfashionable ideas had found their moment of validation and had perhaps changed the course of space travel for generations to come. The universe was vast and full of unexpected challenges. Technology would continue to advance, making space travel ever more comfortable and efficient. But thanks to the lessons of the constellation Ark, those who journeyed among the stars would do so not just with the assistance of brilliant machines, but with the confidence of their own knowledge and the skills to face whatever the cosmos might throw their way. And somewhere in every ship that sailed the starry depths, a manual would be ready and waiting, its pages filled with the accumulated wisdom of humanity's journey into space, a journey that had always been and would always be, guided by the remarkable combination of human ingenuity and the enduring value of fundamental knowledge.